And I would say that there might be incentive for them to make changes and do that with the idea of winning and, of course, making even more money. But as I noted in that column yesterday, there isn't much pressure.
It's the Inside Scoop with FT Senior Insider Ken Rosenthal joining us right now. And I know sometimes we kind of tell Ken a few things we definitely want to bring up with him, and then sometimes some things, just pop into our head. I usually try and be a little bit nice, but I am going to bring something up that kind of sparked discussion, at least behind the scenes here. And Ken, it has to do with Chris Sale, off-season pickups and off-season news. Do you think that as an industry, fans, media, etc., we hyped up Chris Sale enough going to the Atlanta Braves at the time? I know that's kind of a layup question, but overlooked offseason moves that could decide seasons for teams. This has to be at the top. I know probably Soto up there too, but this one's more under the radar, even though it's a big name.
Absolutely, we underestimated the value of Sale to the Braves, but it was understandable at the time given the history of injuries that he had had and all the things that he had dealt with in recent seasons. He hadn't done pitch like this in a long time. So it was fair for people to question whether this was a good trade or not. The irony of it is, what do the Red Sox need more than anything right now? Well, they need offense, but they could use Chris Sale too. And the player they got back for him, Vaughn Grissom, really has not contributed this year, though he might in the future. And I wouldn't condemn the trade from the Red Sox perspective just yet, but while the Braves believed that Sale was on the verge of this, I don't know that many people in the game did. And I don't know that you even could have trusted it because of the injuries that he has had, some of which were flukish, granted, but at the same time, it had been a while.
Let's stay on the Braves a little bit, and I agree. Like, there's always one or two guys where it's like, oh, man, we didn't see that coming. That's just the nature of anything in sports, in life, whatever. But what do you think, Braves' chances playoffs-wise? Do you think, the way they've been playing, you think they got a good shot of, making a little run at this thing?
It's really interesting, Todd, because the Mets are obviously playing really well right now. And can the Mets catch the Braves? Absolutely, they can. I still like the Braves. I still like them in large part because of their rotation, and it's been really good. Now, they are offensively challenged without Albie still, hopefully mid-September for him, and without Riley, most likely for the rest of the regular season. The guys they've brought in, the release players like Merrifield and Urshela, have done a terrific job, and I'm forgetting Laureano there. But at the same time, this is an uphill fight in some ways, even though they control their destiny by holding the third wild card position. I love what they've done. I totally admire it. Iglesias has been great at the back end. It's going to be really interesting in these final few weeks to see if they can hold off the Mets. They have this amazing pedigree of winning. It's much like Houston in the American League. And as we've seen, it's kind of hard to knock them out.
It is kind of hard to knock them out, especially when a front office like Alex Anthopoulos, year in and year out, back to 2014, it didn't work when he was with the Jays, to 15 and 16, it did work. And he started to learn, and now he's doing that with the Braves. How, with everything that they've seen in Toronto, meaning the, Alex Anthopoulos and when he pushes in and when a team has an opportunity to win, how can they still stay with, to me, an underachieving front office like Ross Atkins and what he has built up there? How can they continue to stay with that for another year?
I wrote about this somewhat yesterday, and in that story, I quoted Mark Shapiro, their team president, as saying they value continuity and stability. It's actually a competitive advantage to have those things in the game today. I don't disagree with that in theory, but the situation that they're in right now, and the situation that a number of other clubs are in, I wrote about this as well. It's curious to me that there is not more heat. And I can go through these clubs individually. I don't know that we have time for that, but just look at Toronto, for example. Haven't won a playoff game under this regime, and they've been in place, I believe, since 16. And they've had a really disappointing season. You would think that maybe change would be healthy for the organization. Maybe you just need a new voice at the top of the chain here, but that does not seem to be their inclination. And it seems that they feel they can run the club back next year, essentially the same club, with some additions, of course, in the offseason, and try again. This group, to me, has not done it. I don't know why you would think they're going to do it. And if you don't make a move with Guerrero or Bichette in the offseason, and I don't expect them to, they didn't do it at the deadline when they could have traded them with 2 pennant races remaining. Well, then where are you? Those guys most likely are going to walk. And then you're having a situation where you don't have even compensation for them other than draft picks. So Toronto has been very curious to me. I don't really understand their logic here. And I'm not talking about necessarily advocating for the firing of Atkins. I'm talking about the whole thing, where they seem to feel they're in a much better place than maybe the rest of the industry feels.
We're looking for real ways to boost our nutrition and just found a protein shake that actually tastes amazing. It's called Orgain, and it's been a game changer.
Orgain is the leader in real protein-powered nutrition that understands that being good for you doesn't have to taste bad. It's the organic ingredients we're looking for, but I don't want a grainy battle with my taste buds every day. You know what I'm saying? It's giving smooth milkshake vibes. That's Orgain, and they have a brand new 30-gram complete protein shake that offers protein-packed real nutrition designed to satisfy your cravings without all the sugar.
It gives me energy, provides muscle support, and helps manage hunger too. It's also made without soy ingredients and made with no artificial flavors or sweeteners.
Orgain 30-gram protein shakes are available at Costco and Orgain.com. If you want to get in on the delicious protein-packed nutrition today, head to Orgain.com/FOUL and use the code FOUL for 20% off your order. Once again, that's Orgain.com/FOUL for 20% off. And make sure you use promo code FOUL so they know FT sent you.
Yeah, it's strange when you look at their viewpoint, and also some of those players are going to get more expensive. What if you keep them? Obviously, they're going to get much more expensive if you sign guys like Bo Bichette and Vlad Guerrero Jr. long term. So my follow-up question here, Ken, is why not make a change? If owners of teams like that are doing well, right, and they're making a lot of money, and so they're not too concerned and they want continuity, well, then the next phase would be, how can we make more money? Well, winning would make you more money. It would be more fans in seats. It would be playoff games. So there is incentive to do even better, even if some of these ownership groups don't care that much about the actual baseball being played on the field. The one other layer here that I think about is, why not invest in the non-player personnel? Some teams do it really well, right? The Rays are one of those model examples where some people say, hey, they spend just as much behind the scenes as some of the big boys. They just don't spend on the player personnel. I think on the other end of the spectrum, you see teams like the White Sox, the A's, and the Angels not taking care of things internally. So that's why I think, like, this is the way that you can actually win cheaper. Why wouldn't you want to make a change in your front office or just invest more in everything else behind the scenes?
Scott, that's a good argument. And I would say that there might be incentive for them to make changes and do that with the idea of winning and, of course, making even more money. But as I noted in that column yesterday, there isn't much pressure. And that's the thing. Everybody's kind of comfortable. And the status quo is okay. Fans keep coming. We keep playing. And maybe some years we'll get lucky, get a wild card. And maybe some years we won't. And that's fine. I'm kind of just relaying what my impression is of ownership's position, not just there, but in other places as well. And the problem with this is, what do you tell fans? Well, I can't tell fans, don't go to baseball games. Everybody loves going to baseball games. You love seeing your favorite team play. So a boycott is not necessarily realistic, but it seems to me that teams won't respond unless there is financial pressure. Now, St. Louis is an interesting question in this regard, because their attendance has gone down, especially in the last month. They're still a big draw. They still do really well, top 10 in attendance. But I'd be alarmed if I were their organization and was seeing the apathy that has set in that great baseball town. It's hard to do. And yet the fans there seem pretty fed up. And as I noted in this column yesterday, fans in Seattle are fed up. Toronto and St. Louis, we mentioned. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Other teams and other cities as well. There's a lot of exasperation out there. And I'm not saying you make moves to just react to fans. That would be kind of dumb, right? You can't do that. And I know in an age of social media, there's more noise than ever, and you have to stay the course if you're an organization and believe in what you're doing. At the same time, they're your customers. So why not at least look at doing some things differently?
Interesting. Very interesting. You never know what is going on behind the scenes. So for me, we have the NL Rookie of the Year race, and it's starting to heat up a little bit. You know, Jackson Merrill, Paul Skeens. in your opinion, without saying who you think should win, but as of right now, like, who do you think has the upper hand?
Well, don't forget Jackson Chourio either. And he's had a remarkable 3 months for the Brewers. His season kind of mirrors Merrill's in some ways. Both those guys weren't great in the first 2 months. Merrill was better than Chourio, but not much better and not like crazy good. And yet, since around June 1st, they've both been dominant players. And Merrill has that late clutch thing going on with the home runs. And Chourio, right now, I believe since June 2nd, third in the National League, or third in the majors in OPS behind only Ohtani and Judge. Both play center field. So don't forget Chourio in this conversation. Now, what's really interesting is how voters will value position players in up-the-middle spots like Chourio and Merrill against a pitcher like Skeen, who is now throwing fewer innings, but Skeens is still dominant. So I don't know how this is going to go, and it's kind of an apples and oranges thing, which makes the vote that much more fascinating. Skeens is a much different Rookie of the Year candidate than Chourio or Merrill. He's a pitcher. He's a dominant pitcher. He's been a guy who's had a tremendous impact on his team and the sport. And yet, as I wrote this morning in the windup, I'm not sure he's going to finish higher than third because those two center fielders have been so good.
And he's got a lot on the line, too, which you can see in the windup because he would get that full year of service time if he finishes in first or second for Rookie of the Year. That can affect really the future of the Pittsburgh Pirates. So my last question here on that is, should we have a Rookie Pitcher of the Year award? I mean, some other leagues do it that way, right? Like the NFL will hit the rookie on offense, the rookie on defense. It's hard to compare. And I also give a ton of credit to Skeens because he never struggled, right? Like Churio's young, that's how it is. Like he struggled for the first couple months. Should we just be separating this for the future? Has there ever been a thought?
No, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that in the MVP situation either, where you do have a separate award, Cy Young, but you still consider pitchers for MVP. To me, Scott, the more choices there are, the more debate there is, the better the situation as far as the awards are concerned. And I know it might not produce the fairest outcomes, but it produces the most conversation. And that is the beauty of baseball to me, that we have all these debates and conversations. Who's more valuable, Paul Skeens or Jackson Merrill? I don't know, but we're going to decide that, or at least the voters for that award are going to decide that. So I'm good with the way things are. The awards seemingly have more value this way, then they're not diluted. But I understand what you're saying. And in this particular season, it kind of would make sense, right? But nah, I like it like this.
Yeah, it's a good call. I mean, we have to remember what makes the sport attractive, too, from a debate standpoint. And we're talking about it now because it's difficult to decipher, and we'll talk about it in November, too. Everyone check out the article, too, and the work in The Athletic from Ken, including that little note in the windup that he wrote about to kind of go in depth on this race and the situation with the NL Rookie of the Year right now. Ken, thank you very much. Appreciate you, and we will see you on Fair Territory live tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.
And Fair Territory from yesterday occurred because we had Labor Day on Monday. We observed Labor Day. So there's a fresh episode with more on what we discussed. We did some follow-up questions. So if you want the original part of the discussion, go there. And Thursday, 12:30 Eastern, live Fair Territory on the FT YouTube channel.
Be sure to like and subscribe for more content.
We're back here every weekday, all year long, so do not miss an episode.
The videos are coming in all day. Here's another video you might enjoy.
Baseball the way it should be covered.